Hey there, wonder if I should wait a couple minutes to, I think people are kind of filing, or should I just go? I'm just gonna go, okay. Before we get started, show of hands, who are creatives here? Cool, okay, and non-creative strategists? Okay, great. Designers, UX people? Cool, okay, awesome. Are you all working right now? Is everyone in advertising right now, or are you guys all students? Students, working? Okay, great. Okay, cool. So who's looking to get into advertising right now? So who's still in school? Okay. Awesome, okay. Who's looking to get out of advertising right now? All the washed up 30-year-olds are like, it's getting harder every year. Okay, so let's just get started. 6 years ago, my wife and I took my daughters to San Diego. And my oldest daughter, Natalie, was about 6 years old at the time, and Audrey on the right was about 4. And we're just hanging out on the beach, and Natalie's on the ground, she's kind of drawing this thing on the ground. And I look over at it, and I said, hey, Nat, is that a TIE fighter? And she's a huge Star Wars fan. And she says to me, no, Daddy, that's a love fighter. I looked over at my wife, who's an art director also, and I went, yes, she's got it. And it just made me think, it's so cool because, kids think there's no rules to them. Anything kind of goes with anything. So it's that cliche of like, what's the most interesting thing to a kid for Christmas is the box that the toy came in. It's so true. So it got me thinking, how do we start to think like kids again? It made me think, is it all downhill from there? Because I feel like whether you're a creative or a strategist or whatever, we all have that innate ability to solve problems. We had it as kids. Somewhere down the line, it all got screwed up in school. Because I literally think they taught it out of us. My daughter Audrey, 4th grade, she's starting to do things for Thanksgiving. And she did that draw the turkey thing. She brought it home, and it really kind of pissed me off. Because it's like, really, that hasn't changed in, 40 years since I did it? You're supposed to paint it brown, and some kids are, if they're brave enough, they'll paint it purple and color it outside the lines. So at some point in our education, someone's labeling us, oh, Sally's creative, but Billy's more scientific, and I think those labels kind of stick with us, and we even kind of label ourselves. So the question is being creative only for creative types? I know I'm going to get grief for these photos, but I Googled creative hipster, and that's literally what came up, so I'm going to go with it. So about 5 years ago, I started the Austin Creative Department, and I teach it out of GSD&M at night. I'm really fortunate in that they just kind of let me do what I do, and I started the school for a bunch of reasons. One of the main reasons was that I wanted to have just another option for people who don't have the means or the time to go to these expensive art schools and four-year colleges. But at the same time, I wanted to have a place where people who just wanted to, think like a child again and know the secret sauce in terms of coming up with ideas, do they still have it in them? So I didn't want to limit it to just creatives. So, in fact, a lot of the more successful people who come to the program came in with no experience at all, not even creative experience. So given that, to solve problems, it's a lot to ask for someone to come into a class and jump in and start being creative, right? We've all heard that before, like, how do you do that? How do you come up with stuff? So my goal was to come up with a simple method and a class that really simplified the process. And I called it 1 + 1 = 3. So the simple premise behind this is that it's a way of generating ideas by creating connections between objects and things and ideas that are unrelated. So the process here was something that I thought maybe, whether you come in from an engineering background or an art background or an English background, you can kind of learn this and just use it to solve problems, whatever that may be. So here are just a few examples of juxtaposing things that come from totally different spectrums to create ideas. So we all know Banksy. Everything he does is a juxtaposition of two objects that aren't related. I don't know if this is actually real or not, but I love the idea behind it. It's so cool. Like just the idea of taking engineering and environmental design to transform a landscape. And this idea for Volvo that they came up with for life paints. Are you guys familiar with this idea? You guys have all seen this. It's pretty amazing. So the problem is, how do you make bicycle riding at night safer? They came up with this idea of, well, let's come up with transparent paint that glows in the dark at night. One of my favorite ideas ever. So the magic of reading, kids love to read together. So kids who are blind can't share that experience with kids who have sight. So along comes this idea where someone designs an alphabet that combines Braille with the alphabet. So two kids can actually read together now. Brilliant. This idea. This is purely to spite my wife, because we had an argument about this, about having this for dinner one night. Like, who doesn't like Little Smokies? I just think that's pretty cool. My wife's response was, why would you want to eat pizza with toes? So when you break it down, what's the actual method of coming up with ideas? I broke it down to 4 simple steps. One was define the problem, right? So kind of brief 101. In simplest terms, what is the problem? What's the task? What's the opportunity? Laid out in one simple sentence. Second step is pinpoint the tension. So by that, what I mean is, in every problem, if you really distill it down, there's tension between two sides. And you can really pinpoint that tension to 2 words. And you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. So third, once you've pinpointed the tension, list the associations. So this is literally like sit down with your notebook, your paper, your Post-it notes, and list out hundreds of words on either side, as many as you can think of. There's no right or wrong. Just keep going. And once you've done that, connect the dots. This is the fun and this is the hard part. Start finding associations between the left and the right side. Kind of like playing ping pong, back and forth, back and forth. So quick example. So let's say you're designing a logo for Food Writer, right? Sounds simple enough. A lot of times, designers I've seen, I'm just as guilty, you'll start firing up Illustrator, right? How can I make this thing look cool, right? It's not really about that. An effective logo is not necessarily what it looks like, more so about what it communicates, right? You need to look at it and go, I know exactly what that logo stands for. And then you can judge the aesthetics. So that's the first step, define the problem, right? Pinpoint the tension. So if you're to pinpoint the tension in this, it's food and writer, right? So those 2 words on their own don't really have anything to do with each other. So when you list the associations, here's a real edited, list. Food and writer. Just write all these words down, okay? Once you've got that, then you can roll up your sleeves and start thinking like a designer. So what are connections between words on either side they can kind of draw together from a graphic standpoint, visual communication standpoint, that's really going to communicate what this food writer does. In this example, if you look at a spoon and a fountain pen, maybe there's something interesting going on there. If you look at the form of what a spoon is and what a fountain pen is, maybe there's a connection there. And that's the final answer. So pretty smart solution, right? So keep in mind that if you did just describe this idea, you could say, okay, it's a spoon in a negative space of a fountain pen nib. Boom, great idea, I get it. I don't even need to look at it, right? It's an idea that you can get on a Post-it note. And to me, that's the power of big ideas and the simplicity of using this method is that we're not basing anything off of aesthetics or design or functionality, just words on a page. So that's kind of how it looks like when we do it in my classes. And it's really fun, it's real free form, everyone's just posting stuff up on the walls, and you start creating these connections between the two sides. So I'll go through a couple examples of work that's come out of my school, and I'm really proud of these, not just because I think they're pretty smart ideas. I'm proud of the people behind the work because these guys came in with no background. And kind of in the spirit of this conference, it's all about inclusion. And again, I feel like ideas can and should come from anybody and everybody because I think this stuff can be learned. So if you look at the example of Miracle-Gro, what does it do? It makes your plants grow strong, right? Pretty simple. If you're to isolate the tension, plants and strength, right? So from there, what are solutions that can really connect these two opposing forces? This is where David Jung ended up. A real simple image, and David, I believe, is a designer now at 72 and Sunny in LA. This actually was an assignment I gave a couple years ago, and obviously it's pretty important right now. I believe that giving assignments in my classes, the assignment should range from real practical and tactical assignments like the Miracle-Gro to things that are very broad like this. Because what I want to see from students is what is your interpretation of bigger issues, you know? I feel like if you can tackle something like this and make a statement about it, you could probably sell chicken wings. So, what's the tension in this? It's America and intolerance. Okay, so if you think about your list, what are you going to list on both sides? And once you've done that, how can you start connecting things to create an idea that literally hits that head on? So this is what Isa Flores came up with. I thought it was incredibly powerful, just as an image and as a graphic. I think what really made this powerful to me is not just the fact that, you know, it's an iconic image and this is a cool poster. What blew me away is where she took it. She got local bakers involved in her neighborhood and actually baked this pie. And they sold it, and it created just this big buzz around the neighborhood. So you can kind of see from this one image where this can go, right? It's really a 360-degree idea, summarizing just one iconic image. So on the heels of that, the next assignment was, okay, what are you going to do about it, right? Communicate that in the end, we're all the same. We're all just flesh and bone. It doesn't matter who we are. So if you kind of think about the 1 + 1 = 3 exercise, what would you list for associations with the ends and the fact that we're all the same? So with this one, she came up with words like, for the ends, you know, death, funeral, burials, cemeteries, cremation, heaven, hell. And for the word the same, she had words like community, strength, togetherness, family. And she came up with this idea. And it's called the One Memorial. And her thought here was, you know, at the end of our lives, we can lie in our separate little boxes, or we can, you know, be on the mantle in a vase. Or you could opt in to have your ashes stored in a communal urn with anybody who opts into this. So I thought this was a ginormous idea, really cool. So this is the kind of idea that, again, on paper, you can kind of see the arms and legs where this can go, right? Bigger than an advertising idea. It's just a big idea that could create a grassroots movement. And my challenge to her was, okay, now what? Let's make this thing. Start a Kickstarter. Contact some architects. Like, build this thing. This assignment I thought was pretty fun in that I gave the assignment for Nimbus unicycles, and the class was like, unicycles, man, it's for like clowns and stoners. And through some research, we found that Nimbus actually creates an off-roading unicycle. Yeah, they really do. It's weird. It's like this. It's got knobby tires. It's like this thick, and stoners take it out into the mountains. And so, with this idea, Roy Milton was a student here. He came up with this product innovation. Again, just pie in the sky thinking, but he thought, wouldn't it be cool to have the world's first unicycle/zipline product? And it was really cool to see Roy kind of flesh this out because he really went deep on this thing. Like, he actually worked with an industrial designer to try to design this thing. He blew it out into like this 30-page deck. And what really makes me proud about this idea is that Roy came in with no experience. He came in from a design background from the standpoint if he did mechanicals and worked in the studio at a place that did kind of like mailers and things like that. Had never taken a creative class before. In fact, this is only his second assignment in our first class. Roy went on to work at Sanders Wingo in Austin as an art director, and he just moved to Bernstein Rain in Kansas City as an associate creative director. Okay, so what if you were to design a book that's based on the story of book burning in the future? So Elizabeth Perez did this about 3 years ago. And this one really, I have a soft spot in my heart for this assignment, this solution. Not only because this is probably the most well-known solution, this thing went viral, it went crazy. She did this, she posted it on our site, somebody saw it. It got featured on Mashable, Huffington Post, all sorts of places. But what really made me proud about this was that Elizabeth was my first scholarship student. When I started the school, I felt it was really important to kind of give back and give a minority scholarship every year. So Elizabeth was my first student, and she came in and she worked her butt off. She didn't have a portfolio when she came in. She had some beautiful illustrations of flowers, things like that, but she knew that she wanted to be a creative director someday. And she ended up taking 4 classes. And after that assignment went viral, she ended up getting like 8 unsolicited job offers. And she was going to leave the program. I said, but wait, you're not done yet. And she said, but I got 8 job offers, and my mom's on disability, and I could really, start a new life for myself. So she ended up going to Leo Burnett. She's been there for 3 years. And I can honestly say when she told me that she was moving to Chicago to do this, it really was I would say the highlight and proudest moment of my career. Like, no award will ever top that. And this is her. She's part of the roller derby team in Chicago. So if I ever make it to Chicago, the next time I go to Chicago, I'll be in the front row. Okay, this is Toast in a Boiler. When I was on vacation in Oregon with my family this past summer, of course, I'm looking at my phone, and I checked my LinkedIn account, and I get this email from this guy. It's a really long, really kind letter he wrote to me. Tosin lives in Lagos, Nigeria, and he saw on YouTube this really, obscure posting of a panel I was on at the Academy of Art in San Francisco. There were like 78 viewings of it. He was one of them, I guess. And he saw it, and he wrote me this note saying, hey, I liked some things that were said in the panel. I want to be an art director someday. I want to be a creative director. And he said, yes, there actually are advertising agencies in Lagos. And the more we talked, the more I was kind of motivated and inspired by this guy. Like, here's this guy in Nigeria. He found me in Austin, and we're chatting, And I decided right then that he was going to be my next scholarship student. And so Tosin now Skypes in every week. And it's kind of crazy. Our classes start at 7 o'clock. This is the Omega Lab, one of our conference rooms in the office. And lucky for him, the classes are at night because his house runs on a generator. And he's 7 hours ahead. And by the time class is done, it's like 4 in the morning his time. So he's done some pretty good work so far. The real interesting thing about this class is I intentionally assemble an eclectic mix each semester. So you may have a really good portfolio, but you may not get into class. Because to me, that's not what it's about. It's about assembling a group who I feel can really work together and really build some camaraderie. So to me, this group, the camaraderie was amazing. So Tosin's there, he's online. Andres on the right, he's from Mexico, Monterrey. He came in for the class specifically. And the other 4 students there, they're from Texas, one's from Pennsylvania, different backgrounds altogether. Emily on the left, she works at KXAM, which is a news station in Austin. And she wants to be an art director, but she didn't come from a design background. So I guess, to me, this is the most powerful slide in the whole presentation. Because what it says to me is that when you get a group of people who know nothing about each other, Andres barely spoke English, there's this camaraderie that can be forged just because of their different backgrounds and experiences. For each class, I have a private Facebook group that I leave open. So this class ended a couple weeks ago, but they're still firing ideas back and forth with each other. And it's really cool to see. So to me, I think the main point here, especially for you guys starting out, is that, you know, you're going to go through your careers using some form of this method to solve ideas, and you're going to come up with big ideas. You're going to sell a bunch of products, a bunch of stuff. You're going to make your brands famous. Hopefully, you'll win a bunch of awards for it. But I think, if you think about the trajectory of your career, at least I'm thinking of my career. All that stuff has brought me a lot of value, and it's been really rewarding. But when it comes to this, I want you guys to think like you actually have the power to create connections between people, not just ideas. And I'm kind of looking back at my career. There's a lot of stuff that I used to stress over, and there's a lot of stuff that I used to feel really proud of that I don't stress about that stuff anymore. And I'm not that proud of that stuff anymore. But stuff like this, just bringing people together, that's the kind of stuff that's going to create a snowball effect. And I think that's kind of what this conference is about. So I'll just kind of end with that. Thank you very much.